All right, everybody, this is today's project. I'm out here with the Kubota and the Prinoth mulcher. I have the MTL too, but I have this thing already hooked up and I don't know what I'm getting ready to get into back in here, so this thing will handle just about everything, and I didn't want to have to come back if there was something I needed to cut and hook this thing up. So we're just going to do pretty much everything today with this. What we're doing is we're going to make our way through here, kind of parallel this road down to that deer stand right there, and then from that deer stand we're going to cut straight back about 2 widths of this machine, which would be about 12 feet wide, to, if we can make it, to a tree line that's a couple 100 yards back, and then we're gonna come back towards the road here and stop. The road's like right there, stop about 75 feet short. So that's probably maybe there to that tree stand. That's about 100 yards ish, maybe 125, something like that. And then that kind of diagonals back that way, so it might be like 150 that we got to cut along that tree line. So that's what we're going to do, and then if we got time we may kind of trim up some of these along this ditch line too, and I'll use the MTL for that most likely. So we'll unhook this thing and hook the other one up if we got time for that today. So all right, not much to it. Hopefully it's pretty dry. They said a lot of this stays wet throughout most of the year, but we haven't hardly had any rain. There we are supposed to get some definitely tomorrow, like half an inch at least. So I'm gonna try to do as much of this as possible today and get this done. So let's get started. So you're probably going to hear that little squeak in the boom. I greased this entire machine before I got started, and I swiveled the boom from side to side on the chassis pins, or the king pins, which is what connects the boom to the actual excavator itself. And I'm thinking it might just be an issue right now with the weight of the mulcher, because it weighs 1,000 pounds and it just puts a lot of weight on the entire boom and arm assembly there. So I'm going to just continue to grease it really well before and after jobs, and hopefully that'll work itself out. But if it's a little annoying, I apologize there. right, guys, I've got our path cut through here down to the deer stand. It's this big pine right here, and I almost didn't see it in there. I mean, I should have marked it as that big pine, but it's right there. You see the ladder on it. So now we got to cut a straight line through here all the way back to about where that wood line is back there. That's a good ways. That might be 500 yards, so we'll see. They said there's some water in there. They don't know if I'll be able to make it all the way to that wood line or not. They said there's water in there, so I never actually came out here and looked at this job before I got it. They said, hey, do you have this piece of equipment, which was a mini with a mulcher bush hog, and I was like, yeah, and they were like, well, that's what we need, so come on out. And so I came out here, which through here, this would have been a good little job for the skid steer, but through there, I don't know. I mean, you don't want to get stuck, because you get stuck in the skid steer, and that could be a bad day. This thing I can actually cut out in front of me, and I can see the ground, you know, before I get into whatever I'm getting ready to drive through, which is the real advantage with this machine when you're doing swampy, boggy areas like this, which this looks like a swampy, boggy area. Though it is dry and hard packed through here. It's very dry, but you know, if you get buried out here on one of these jobs, there goes your profit for the day almost, you know, depending on what you got to do to get out. So, and you can pretty much self-recover with most minis as long as they're not buried too bad, but cut down a few logs, get the thing out of the mud, and you should be able to get it out. So let's see if we can't make our way back there. All right, so now the challenge becomes to try to cut a halfway decently straight line through here. I don't want a real wide path, just about 12 feet, about twice the width of the mini. Something like that. So that's what I'm going to try to do here. Doesn't have to be perfect, but I do want to make this line kind of as straight as possible if I can. A lot of blackberries in here again, like there was on that pond job. You kind of see me looking behind me a lot to try to keep my line. It's a little heavier, it's a little more kind of unwieldy, I guess you could say, than the MTL, but it goes through these briars because it has such a big open face on this side. It's able to kind of, when these briars are kind of tall like that, it's able to just kind of just suck them all up into there, where the MTL has a sort of a, you know, shorter, smaller intake, I guess you could call it. Straight line with that tree. We need to kind of angle maybe a little more that way, I guess, maybe. Get out and take a look. It up a little easier. great, at least so far. They told me this was logged, I guess, years ago. A logging track, I guess. Considering the vegetation, it looks like it's been somewhat decently maintained. Some of the stumps I've found in here from when this thing is ground over were like powder. So it looks like it was logged a while ago. And I haven't found very many stumps, but I did find a few, and they were pretty rotten and old. The road was an old logging road, so the road that you take to get in here, there's a stump right there. That's what it looks like. Yeah, there's one. It's just dust, nothing left of it. Sharpen the teeth really quick before I got started. I didn't film that, but they did need a good sharpen. They were getting kind of dull from cutting out on that pond the other day. I cut for about 6 or so hours, and I didn't sharpen them at the end, so they were due for a sharpen. But for most of the stuff in here, I probably really didn't need to sharpen it. It's just this grass. And just a few things I've taken down. Off my line here a little bit, I think. You know? It's kind of hard to cut a straight line like this when you're going through the woods. It seems like it would be simple, but it's not. Not as simple as you think. At least not to me. Maybe there's somebody out there that's better than me doing that, but do that, but grass mostly and a couple little small trees through here. I'm only running this mulcher at about 85% throttle, and it's doing a great job. No real issues. I've had to crank it up to full throttle for a couple of big trees that I took down, but nothing major. Actually, really just that one. I think that one 8-inch tree that I took. of the easiest things to mulch down. The wood fiber in them is just so soft and brittle. Even like an 8 or 10 inch wax bundle, this thing just destroys with no problem. 8-inch gum and it's a different story. But I have taken down some big wax bundles with this thing and it doesn't even explode. I've kind of learned with this mulcher that different trees cut, or different, different plants and trees cut differently than each other. Pines are not too bad, but the water oaks and the gums are pretty bad. Red maples aren't too bad. Neither are the few cottonwoods that I've cut. They weren't too bad, but the gums and oaks are probably the worst. All right, everybody, quick little follow-up. I'm not gonna walk all that because it's full of ants and possibly snakes, and yellow flies are everywhere, and I ain't trying to play that game. I get bit by those things and I swell up bad. So what we did was, when I got to the end down there, we cut a left and I meandered my way through down this wood line. It's kind of like a broken wood line, and then they wanted me to make like a couple of hard lefts here so nobody can like just see down in there. It wasn't one straight road, so that makes a left, and then it goes and it makes another left, and then it basically goes straight back to where that big tree was back there that was down. And so that works out pretty good. Right down there about where that little white marker is the property line, and they wanted to be off that a good ways. That's roughly where it is. There's a ditch right there, but this stuff is so tall. When I was cutting through it, I was about a half a dozen times I had to get on top of the machine to figure out where I was going. Like I couldn't make heads or tails. I couldn't even see the wood line over here. I was so deep in it. I mean, because if you were to go through that right there, and you got all this growing up on your left and all this on your right, you can't see nothing. So I couldn't even see all these big trees over here. So that's that. Nice little day of mulching. I think the teeth are dull as hell. I haven't sharpened them at all. I brought the machine back at a little after 1, after about 4 hours of cutting. Put some grease in the bearings, greased a couple other spots, but I didn't. And I put some fuel in the machine, but I did not sharpen the teeth. And oh yeah, they're dull. They're pretty dull. They took some work in here today, but though I didn't I didn't hit any metal or any brick. There was no brick or metal or anything in there, so that was good. But that one's still chunked, but didn't get any worse. But yeah, they're definitely not as sharp as they were, but it's all good. But they still cut there at the end. It's not horrible, not horrible, but that does feel a little soft. It doesn't have, I mean, it's sharp, but it doesn't have like that razor's edge kind of that you feel. It just feels kind of rounded, soft. Feels a little soft. It's probably, and that's probably from the dirt. That sand kind of acts like sandpaper on these teeth, but they're not bad. I don't see any of them that really got it real bad. So awesome. Well, that was a fun day of mulching. We didn't get stuck. There was no water. I didn't have any jams, and the only problem I got right now is hopefully I can get some more diesel fuel. We got this fuel shortage down here because of this pipeline nonsense. So when I went to the gas station this morning, the one over there in Ainer, there's a Speedway. They didn't have any gasoline, but I didn't need any gas. I filled up yesterday on my way back from Atlanta, but I did need diesel for this thing, and they did have diesel, thank goodness. But oh crap, I got stuff all jammed up in this thing. Get that out. Damn, I might have to cut that out. So I'm thinking about taking these chains off, just unbolting that for some of this more outdoorsy work where it doesn't matter where this stuff gets thrown. So because it seems like it would help with the back feeding, because a lot of times I've noticed with these chains, they rub the ground and they kind of push away whatever you're trying to kind of back grind, and that doesn't really work all that great. So but yeah, I'm really happy with this thing so far. It's done great. Oh, I got something jammed in there. Oh, let's get that out. Come on. But yeah, it's been great so far. Really liking it. There was some stuff in here I could have done with the MTL for sure, especially, you know, none of this through here though. When I made that hard left and came back towards the road, the MTL wouldn't have been able to hardly do any of that. I was mulching big stuff in there, but you know, 4, 5, 6, 7 inch stuff in a lot of places. A lot of those things, whatever those are, I looked them up the other day on my phone, but I can't remember what they are. But there was a ton of these things, thousands of them. I mulched a bunch of them, and then they're pretty good size at the bottom. That one's probably 3 inches. So that's what a lot of it was. But the rest of that stuff in the front, the MTL could have handled, but it just would have been a pain to kind of switch everything out. So I just did it with that thing. But that's the day. So I'm gonna load this thing up, and we're gonna go back out to the pond job tomorrow and try to finish that up. I'll catch you guys later.